The Republican Party in Delaware was once strong and vibrant, with national names like Pierre DuPont, Bill Roth, and Mike Castle. But times have changed, and now the Republican Party can't even find candidates to run for the state's top jobs. Is the Republican Party dead in Delaware? This is the Delaware Way. Hi, I'm Larry Menti. Welcome to the Delaware Way. The future and the current status of the Republican Party in Delaware. That's the topic of the day. And joining me, two guests, Charlie Copeland, who runs the Delaware Party in Delaware, and also Kevin Kelly, Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Kelly, who was part of the transformation of the Republican Party in Philadelphia. And let's get right to it. What is the status of the Republican Party in Delaware right now? It doesn't seem like you have any candidates.
We have more local candidates than we did in all of 2012 and probably all of 2010. I haven't looked that number up.
Must have been really bad in 12 and 10.
Well, maybe it was, but again, local candidates. Now, if you're looking at statewide, there are 5 statewide positions up this year: U.S. Senate, U.S. House, Attorney General, Treasurer, and the Auditor. And for the Attorney General, Treasurer, and Auditor, we have those seats filled. And I believe that I will have a candidate in the not too distant future for the U.S. Senate, and we're in conversations with folks all the time. But you know, we are still looking for candidates.
From what I read, everybody's been turning you down.
Well, we talked to a number of people around the Attorney General's position, and we did get turned down from some folks. But we have I think, an excellent candidate. He's been an attorney, a litigator for a long, long time, and I think he's going to do quite well. And honestly, the Democrats' candidate is just a career politician.
Kevin, I know you're in Philadelphia, so you're watching from afar, but you went through some of the same stuff in Philadelphia, probably a bigger battle in Philadelphia in trying to get Republican candidates, and not just Republican candidates, the Democrats want you to run. What do you think from a distance looking at Delaware and the way things are being run here?
So I've gotten a reputation as kind of a Republican establishment basher, but that is not my intent. I truly want the Republican Party to be held accountable because it's so important. I mean, just look at the issues we have today. We've got a president legislating through dictates. We've got all kinds of problems, whether it's the IRS scandal, Benghazi, the national debt, which threatens our very existence as a nation. So it's important. And I find that the establishment is part of a political class, and they get into the politics, and most of them become career politicians. And that's not what our founding fathers want. They never imagined that people would spend a lifetime in politics. They didn't design the federal government that way. Decisions were supposed to be made on the local level. Now we have a federal leviathan that tells us light bulbs we can use, cars we can drive, how big your toilets can be.
I get it, but specifically, let me get you back to Delaware.
Yeah.
Specifically on Delaware, not having a candidate to run right now. Now, although you say you will have candidates.
So it's different if you vet your candidates and build the infrastructure where people, here's typically what happens. Somebody wants to run for Senate, a good, solid candidate, and they come and they see behind the curtain and they don't see an infrastructure there and they go away. So it's incumbent upon the chairman, and I don't know, Charlie, we've just met, but in Philadelphia, look, it's no surprise that there's an election every 2 years or 4 years. Their job is to build the infrastructure so that when a good candidate comes, the infrastructure is in place, as opposed to having to build the infrastructure yourself and then run a campaign.
Let's not assume he doesn't have an infrastructure. Do you have one in place for a candidate?
Just because he's right, actually. But I mean, if you had a question, I'm happy to go there. But
what he's saying is, the chair doesn't just have to pick candidates. A Republican Party has to have an infrastructure ready, so when the right candidate comes along, they already have the mechanism to run. Is that all set?
I don't think, honestly, that the chair should be picking candidates. That's why we have primaries. That's why we have conventions. That's why we have a base. No, I think that is absolutely right, that you need to have a party infrastructure that's in place 24 months out of every 24-month election cycle, and the day after the election, the next election starts for the party.
And you have that.
And we are building that. We did not.
So you don't have that.
And so when I took over as chair last July, we had a couple of years with another chair who was the guy that followed the Christine O'Donnell, Mike Castle fiasco for the party infrastructure, and held the wheels on as best he could. But I came in and had some debts to deal with, had a lot of negativity and vibes still going out there. We had no tools, but even before that, when I first ran for the state senate back in 2002, basically you come forward and say, hey, I think I might be interested in being a candidate, and the response was, well, go get him, Tiger.
So let me get back to Christine O'Donnell. Does one bad election ruin a party in a state? It would have to be weak in the first place for that to happen, would it not?
It was absolutely weak in the first place. I mean, this was a 20-year buildup where the party infrastructure was being sort of let to lie fallow, if you will. There had been some infighting of one variety or another that really had never been dealt with. The sides and folks hadn't come together and come to some sort of agreement on, okay, how are we going to work together? And so it culminated in the O'Donnell-Castle race.
I know you're trying to get in, Kevin, because you're shaking your head. I remember talking to you when Christine O'Donnell was going to run against Mike Castle. You were a supporter of Christine O'Donnell.
I was a supporter of whoever the Republican was going to be. And the fact of the matter is, look, it's no secret. There is a battle for the soul of the Republican Party right now between what I would classify as professional politician class and the grassroots, who got spun up in 2010, were responsible for the 2010 victories, and now have started to infiltrate. But the threatened political class spends more time attacking what should be their natural ally, the Tea Party and the grassroots, because they feel threatened, and rightly so, because these people are pissed and they want to start healing America, but they can't do it with an intransigent professional political class who makes them the enemy instead of Democrats.
Now the fight, this is wonderful because it does highlight the fight within the Republican Party for the soul of the Republican Party right now. But that fight for the soul of the Republican Party probably cost you the Senate in 2010.
Well, and the assumption in what you just said is that was the fault of the Tea Party. Look.
No, there was no assumption in that, but it's factual.
When it
that probably cost the Senate.
It's an assertion.
It cost the race in Nevada. It cost the race in Delaware. Do you have any doubt in your mind that Mike Castle would have won?
Oh, absolutely, Mike Castle would have won. But I will say that to Kevin's point, if you win the Senate in 2010, you can discharge some of the things that the president perhaps did. But when you have a president that says, as long as I got a phone and a pen, I don't need a constitution, you've got a bigger problem to deal with. And so
the House holds the purse strings. I reject that assertion. I understand. I reject that assertion. If the House of Representatives had any type of functional leadership right now and any chutzpah, they would not fund this president and what he wants to do. It is in their constitutional authority. They won't do it. And why won't they do it? They don't want to mess things up for 2014. They don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers because they think 2014 is going to be a landslide. I think that's one hell of an assumption given where we are as a country and where we are as a fight within the Republican Party. You're not for sure that Republican conservatives and the libertarian wing of the Republican Party, our natural ally, is going to come out for us in 2014, given the mesh John Boehner's created in the one arm that we control.
I would think, and I wanted to get to another point because I talked about 2010. Now let's fast forward to 2014. I think that the influence of the Tea Party, even though they're blamed for not winning the Senate, and I just did, you're right, not winning the Senate in 2010, is felt in 2014. I think that the establishment candidates are a little bit more conservative because of the Tea Party. Is that fair?
Rhetoric, yes. In their actions, no.
Same.
I don't know that I agree with that completely. They are not as conservative as perhaps I would like them to be, but they are more conservative than they would have been without the Tea Party. And I think, honestly, in 2014, you're going to see, because of like the Cantor loss and some others that I think are going to come up here soon and that you might see as losses.
For instance, tell me.
Well, I think Thad Cochran's got one heck of a fight on his hands in Mississippi.
Let's talk about that.
And so and here at the local level. In Delaware, I mean, 2010, like I said, was sort of the nadir, if you will, of the Republican recreation, and I think we've done quite a turnaround. But again, 20 years of fading. I mean, if you talk about Philadelphia, I mean, the last time the Republicans had a majority in the city of Wilmington was 1956. That was before I was born.
And the last time they voted for a president was '88. I think that's we only have a minute left. I'll give you the last word.
Okay, so the establishment now is pulling out all stops. John McCain's flying in. Crossroads America's pumping millions of dollars. They're running racist ads to Democrats for Thad Cochran right now. You have no doubt that that's happening, right? So, why is the establishment trying to push a guy where the Republican's going to win anyway down there. A guy who's been in there for 30-some years, pork barrel spending, and that's exactly the problem. He brings the bacon back to Mississippi. The establishment Republican Party loves the bacon, but I would submit to you that's why we're $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities, and that is not a sustainable model. And we're spending all our time trying to defeat a right-of-center candidate who wants to go to D.C. and stop all that spending.
All right, we have to take a break for a moment. I want to bring someone else in. I want to bring a Democrat in, because now we've already heard a debate within the Republican Party, and I would think the Democrats must love the split in the Republican Party. When we come right back.